So I think I will start. Okay. So welcome to this informational web meeting about the second call for proposals from the C3.ai Digital Transformation Institute. This second call is about the digital transformation and AI for energy and climate security. You can read about the call in greater detail on the C3.ai Digital Transformation Institute webpage. Today, I'm going to be mainly focusing on the mechanics of the proposal submission and the criteria and eligibility. There are, you will have other questions as well, and you should be putting your questions into the chat. We will take questions after my preliminary introduction, but there will also be people speaking during this to give you more information. Okay, so here's an overview summary about the second call for proposals. These are for 1 year of funding. They range from 100,000 to 250,000. Please note that there is no indirect costs. Also, the PI must be from one of the C3.ai Digital Transformation Institute institutions, and the projects must use the C3.ai suite. The total amount of funding should be about 5 million. The key dates: submissions in EasyChair on March 29th. Decisions will be made by late May, and the funding will begin on June 1st. No prior experience with C3.ai Suite is required, but the DevOps team will assist you in learning how to use it and even could be part of your projects if you design it that way. The PIs and co-investigators on proposals that are submitted to the solicitation are expected to serve as reviewers for the competition. There will be additional information sessions. This is the first. There will be another one on Wednesday that will be led by Kostas Spanos from Berkeley, who's my counterpart there. That will be at the same time, which is to say 1 to 2 p.m. in Illinois, or 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. in California, 2 to 3 in the East Coast. And the Zoom meeting link is provided here. There will also be 3 different sessions describing the computing resources, what's involved, and how to get up to speed. Strongly recommended to attend at least one of those, and they cover somewhat different materials in each of these sessions. Finally, there are office hours that are online by the DevOps team, and you can go and see them every Tuesday. Okay, so this is the website that you should reach in order to get actually more detailed information about what is covered in this solicitation. Okay. If you have email, you can send your email to proposals@c3dti.ai. The agenda going forward are welcome and introduction. So welcome everyone. We will introduce ourselves as we come up. I'm Tandy Warno. I'm one of the 2 co-chief scientists for this C3.ai Digital Transformation Institute. Also on the call are other people from the Institute, including Shrikant, who is one of the co-directors, Jay Roloff, who is our administrator in charge of everything, and other people. Okay, so vision and overview for the Institute itself. This is going to be very brief. The mission is to attract the world's leading scientists to join in this research effort, which is really to advance the digital transformation of business, government, and society. As you can see, it is a consortium of many different universities and supported very generously from C3.ai and from Microsoft. The C3.ai DTI covers many different aspects, mainly the research awards, but it will also have visiting professors and scientists. It will have curriculum development. It will have data analytics and does have data analytics platform. It will have an outreach program, an industry partner program, which is already underway, and it very much values open source software. So the research awards are made every year. They're mostly targeted at the 250,000 maximum. That's really the maximum, with 100,000 being much more normal. These are for 12 months in duration. They can involve multiple institutions, but it's really primarily supposed to support the collaborating institutions, which means you can have a collaboration with someone who is not part of the C3.ai consortium. But most of the work should be supporting the people inside the consortium. Visiting professors and scientists, well, unfortunately, with the COVID-19, we have not really been able to do this yet, but we will be doing it soon. Curriculum development, we've been covering by having a lot of workshops, but we will actually be doing very specifically curriculum development at both the undergraduate and graduate level in different areas that relate to this vision of digital transformation. And the data analytics platform is already in existence. It includes many different components, which I'll cover very briefly. There is the outreach program, which is something we've been doing a lot of, and that's been extremely successful. And the industry partnership program, which has been also very exciting and really getting underway. Okay, open source software, everyone should know that everything that's developed really should be made publicly accessible and open source and open access. Okay, now let's switch to the second call for proposals. Again, this is the energy systems and dealing with climate. And so you should, if you read this description, you'll get a brief idea about what this is about. You can get much more information by going to the webpage. So the energy systems are being digitally transformed by investment at all levels. The early lead of energy systems operators in embracing digital transformation has enabled these systems to use digital transformation not only to enhance energy efficiency, but also to lead the way to a lower carbon, higher efficiency economy that will enhance both energy and climate security. Here are some of the topics. So this is also on the webpage. If you go to the C3.ai Digital Transformation webpage, you will see this. So this is just to overview it. Sustainability, applying AI and ML and advanced analytic techniques to support sustainability initiatives. AI for carbon sequestration, again, applying AI and ML techniques. AI for leaks and emissions detection. Safe hydrocarbon production and transportation infrastructure, AI for advanced energy and carbon markets. Cybersecurity of power and energy infrastructure, smart grid analytics, distributed energy resource management, AI for energy efficient buildings and factories, AI for improved natural catastrophe risk assessment, resilient energy systems. Those are just some of the areas. You may have an idea for something that's not listed there, and that would be just fine. Again, we will have another meeting on Wednesday that will be about this solicitation. And you may find out more very specifically about the science that is being sought at that particular meeting, which is on Wednesday. So, what about the computing resources? There's scientific computing, which is supported by the Berkeley labs. And there is also support from Blue Waters. Both of these are providing support. And there's the Microsoft Azure support. Now, it's very important to understand what you can do with this. And therefore, you should realize that this second solicitation, awardees will be given access to the C3.ai suite. And these platforms include many different features, low and no code AI deployments, scalable data and processing from multiple dynamically updated data sources, schedule and event-based processing, Jupyter notebooks, and visualization dashboards. The DTI staff, the C3.ai DTI staff at Berkeley and Illinois will support your use of the C3.ai technology. You do not need to have prior experience with this. They will provide consultation. They could even join your project. They will provide customized training materials and mentoring. And they will enable you to work with the C3.ai engineers and data scientists to get the most effective use of the platform. And again, there's assistance with the complementary resources at NCSA and NERSC, and there's the Microsoft Azure Cloud. So For the additional information about how to use the resources, you're strongly recommended to go to these online sessions that begin this Friday, but continue next week as well, and the week after. And again, the weekly office hours. Okay, the application process. It's actually a very easy process, and I just want to make sure you're aware of it. So first of all, eligibility. The proposal PI, which is not to say co-PIs, but the PI, the overall PI, must be a faculty researcher for one of the consortium participating institutions. You can have co-investigators from everywhere else or from the consortium. Preference will be given to proposals where the majority of the funding is going to the consortium institutions. And we strongly encourage the submission of proposals that are interdisciplinary and interinstitutional across the consortium. In other words, a proposal that comes out to support people only at one of the institutions is not as valuable to us as a proposal that covers more than one of the consortium institutions. We're really trying to nurture interactions between the consortium institutions. And again, let me remind you that if you submit a proposal, that the PI and the co-PIs are expected to serve as reviewers in the solicitation. Available funding, a total of $5 million. Proposals can request funding of $100,000 to $250,000 for 1 year. But there is also a very large amount of computing resources that are supported. Review criteria. You must discuss how the C3.ai suite will be used in your proposal. So this is one of the things you need to be aware of and think about how you're going to use it and talk with the DevOps team to find out what's involved there. Projects will be peer reviewed on the basis of scientific merit, prior accomplishments of the PI and co-PIs, the use of AI, ML, data analytics, and cloud computing, and suitability for testing methods at scale. No prior experience is required, but the DevOps team will help you. This last thing also says that you may be leveraging other sources of income, and so that's the funding, that's something to, if you have, for example, a grant from some agency, and it's supporting some of this work, but you want to add to the effort and do something in addition, it's very desirable. This is a way of taking an existing project and adding support to the existing project for something in addition to what you've already gotten funding for. Submission and timeline, all proposals should be submitted online in EasyChair, and the link for that is right there. Use the proposal submission template. They need to be submitted by March 29th at midnight in Pacific time. And awards will be announced in late May. And questions about general eligibility, etc., proposals at C3DTI.ai. So again, a summary. Proposals 1 year of funding, no indirect costs. The PI must be from one of the participating institutions. The projects must use the C3.ai suite. The topic for this solicitation is AI for energy and climate security. The key dates, March 29th, is the submission deadline on EasyChair. And by the way, it's something like a 5-page proposal. It's very short. Decisions are late May, funding June 1st. No prior experience is required. The DevOps team will be available for consultation. And I'm shortly going to turn this over to the DevOps people to answer questions that relate to C3.ai. So if you have questions, please go to this particular webpage to see the information about the solicitation and email this email address. So I'm going to go backwards now to where we have information that's specifically about DevOps and pass this now to the people on the team who could answer those questions. So who is going to answer this? Who wants to take over?
I can try. Hi,
Okay,
I'm Baron Adams. I'm part of the DevOps team, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Do you want to just talk about C3.ai, the AI suite? what it enables and what's the learning experience?
Sure. So basically, the C3 AI suite itself is it's a platform as a service. Basically, you have degrees of learning curves that you would anticipate depending on how you use that suite. So in one case, if you're trying to develop a standalone application, it's recommended that you go through some of the C3.ai training, which would so you would basically ideal scenario would be that you have somebody that has a background in programming and maybe in particular in JavaScript and some data science background perhaps, and then they would go ahead and do some training and learn how to develop software for the C3 AI suite. Now that's one situation. Another situation might be that you already have data analysis code that you've written, say in Python or in other scenarios that you want to plug into the suite, and that would be a different use case where you would be able to integrate your data. Perhaps you might require assistance from our team to help you do that, and then you would go ahead and try to plug that into your existing code. And then as far as the no code, low code options, those are pieces of software that are available to kind of blunt the learning curve a little bit for developing. So if you just need to do data integration, some of the low code, no code environments can help you integrate your data and then do your analysis. So I mean that's a broad overview. So if there's any specific questions, we can try to cover those.
That was great. I'm going to be answering some of the questions in the chat. I think I'll just answer some of them right now. So Beihang Jin said, is it allowed for a co-PI to be present in multiple proposals? Absolutely, and that's true for the PI as well. You can be on several different proposals. Let's see. There's a comment from Vera Hur. Do co-PIs have to be tenure stream faculty? No. PIs and co-PIs do not need to be tenure stream faculty, but you do have to be allowed to be the PI on a proposal from your institution. That is something that some people have and some people do not have. So just make sure that you're allowed to be PI at your institution. Are there any expectations for what will happen to the projects after 1 year of funding is completed? I think that's a question from William Booz. I think that amounts to, is there a possibility of renewal funding? I'm going to let Shrikant answer that. Shrikant, do you want to speak up about that?
Sure. Yeah. So at this point, we don't have any mechanism for renewal funding. However, we will be pretty liberal about giving no cost extensions. So if you apply for a 200K project and get it, and at the end of the year, you want to renew it for a year, or extend it for a year, we'll be pretty liberal with that. But we don't have a mechanism for sort of adding to that project at this time. We are thinking about it, but we don't have a mechanism at this time.
I'm just checking to see if there are any more questions. Satya Dodi says, can a small business collaborate with the consortium PI to apply? And the answer is yes. But the PI needs to be from one of the institutions, and the co-PIs can be from small businesses. There's not a problem with that. Shrikant, do you want to make any comment?
Yeah, I think the only thing I would add is that what Tandy said earlier about the majority of the funding should be spent at in the consortium partners. So I think that's something we'll be mindful of. If a small business is collaborating with a consortium PI, I think we'd prefer that the amount of money going to the business is small compared to what goes to the PIs and co-PIs at consortium members.
Correct. And then the other thing is to realize that there's no overhead, right? So a lot of businesses are not comfortable with that. So just be aware of that. Another question from Talal.
Maybe Tandy, can I just say one more thing about that? I think no overhead, just to be very clear, last time this question came up from a few people. We mean no indirect costs. So which means if you're put a student on it, then they can their benefits and their tuition can be explicitly and should be explicitly budgeted for.
Right.
But the indirect costs, it cannot be. Yeah.
Right, no indirect costs. Thank you. Talal Khalid says, what level of help can be expected from the DevOps team? I'm just going to say a lot of help from DevOps is possible. And let's turn this back over to the DevOps people. Perhaps, Greg, you might want to have a chance to say something. Actually, Greg, I don't know if you have the mic. Okay, does someone from the DevOps want to say what kind of help DevOps can provide?
Sure. So generally, I mean, we provide some additional training resources. There are sort of fast track training documentation that's available for one. And then we also provide office hours for ongoing interaction to help people that are stuck or that have a roadblock. And then in addition to that, we're open to, to the limit of our availability to be able to schedule more one-on-one help. And we're a team of, I think, about 6 technicians that can help with various aspects of both training, debugging, and just generally trying to help you plan your project and orient what you're trying to do with the software.
Great. Wedi, did you want to add to that, since I think you actually can speak?
It's pretty much what Darren said. We also have, I guess, access to, say, the C3 folks for additional assistance if there's something that that we're just not familiar with, or we didn't quite understand what could be the problem. So we have additional I guess you would think of them as system admins to the platform itself, and we can get things resolved that way.
Okay, great. There's a few more questions. Stefano has asked, can a European institution with their own funding collaborate somehow? I think the answer is obviously yes, but I'm going to let Shrikant make some comment.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, since you don't need funding, you can certainly be part of a team and contribute. In fact, we have a new consortium partner, KTH. People, I don't know if there's anybody from KTH is here who's asking that question. KTH has a special relationship where somebody from KTH can apply for funding, and and their portion of the funding will be paid for from the European side. So the answer is, if you have funding, then certainly there should not be a problem to add yourself onto a project. So let me also maybe take this opportunity to answer the next question. Harris Sheikh says, can you talk a little more about how C3DTI incorporate pre-existing Python code? If the code is just Python code and it can just run by itself, then certainly you can run the Python code from within the C3.ai environment. You can open up a Jupyter notebook, run your Python code there. Now, I guess the question is, how to incorporate a pre-existing Python code. I guess it depends on what kind of incorporation you're talking about. If you have to use additional data and the data has to be loaded onto the C3.ai suite and so on, then you will have to talk to the DevOps people during their office hours, or find out during the webinars, their webinars, as how to use the C3.ai suite. Yes, but plain running Python code on the C3.ai platform should be easy. Just like having a Jupyter notebook on your laptop, except that now you have the power of Azure behind it. So
yeah, so I encourage people to actually reach out to the DevOps office hours, which are on Tuesdays. You could ask these questions. It might also be the kind of thing you could do at one of the information sessions that are coming up. There's a question from Pan Zhao that I think, Shrikant, you should answer.
Sure.
Says, go ahead.
If we go back to can we go back to the list of topics, Tandy? I mean, those are examples, but I just want to. Yeah. So not all of them are energy related, as you can see, applying leaks and emission detection. And if you go to the next page, for example, AI for improved natural catastrophe risk assessment. So these are not all directly energy related. So yes, I mean, things related to climate change are allowed. Climate security is a very generic term. So I guess maybe the question might be because of the word "and" there, maybe energy and climate security. I guess maybe a good way to interpret this would be and/or climate security. So if it deals with just one of them, that would be fine too.
So one thing I do want to emphasize to everyone is that these proposals, the C3.ai DTI, vision is that you're going to transform science and society through digital transformation, and that's AI, machine learning, Internet of Things. This is not other types of work. It really should be firmly embedded in that kind of vision. So when you're thinking about what you're proposing, bear in mind that that's part of the criteria. Okay.
That's a very good point. Yeah. So I think the centrality of AI is what Andy is emphasizing, and I think that's important. But I guess for the last call, another question came up, and I don't know if some of you are thinking about it. I'll answer it now, which is, what is AI? What do we mean by AI? Now, that is a somewhat ambiguously defined term here. I think anything that uses large-scale computing, which uses the C3.ai platform, where you can incorporate data and learn from the data to propose whatever solutions you're proposing, would be considered AI. It doesn't have to be neural networks. It doesn't have to be specific AI techniques. So I think the interpretation of AI is pretty broad, but I'd like to emphasize what Andy said, which is there should be, it's AI for. I mean, that's a very important aspect of the call.
So there's another question here from Anita Connolly, which has to do with EasyChair specifically. So let me just give a little bit of comment about EasyChair. And this is based upon what happened in the previous solicitation. When you submit on EasyChair, some people have their admins do the submission, the uploads of documents, and that could be fine, except that the contact information has got to be for the PI and the co-PIs and not for the admin. Because if we are checking for conflicts, in other words, making sure that the reviewers are not from your institution, and we're making sure that the reviewers don't have papers with you, we need to have the names of the PI and the co-PIs and not the name of your admin. So it's really important that when you do something in EasyChair, that you're making sure all the contact information is for the PI and the co-PIs, okay? If you have, my recommendation with EasyChair, by the way, from lots of years of experience, is that you can submit and then revise. So submitting an early draft of the proposal and then revising before the deadline is fine. And it's a lot better than submitting after the deadline and then no longer being able to be considered, okay? I hope that answers Anita's question. Let's see, are there other questions? Does anyone have? I'm not seeing any new questions. No questions. Okay, so what I'm going to suggest that you do is you actually look at the call for proposals, which is on the website. On the C3.ai website. And if you click on this, okay, by the way, this PDF is on my webpage along with the PowerPoint. So you can actually download this presentation and get all these URLs, okay? So if you go to my website, it'll be right there. But if you clicked on this, you would actually get the information about the solicitation. And I'm just going to copy and paste, and then we can review what's actually there. Can you see this? Can everyone see this? Okay, so if you scroll down, this is the C3.ai website. This is the second call for proposals. And it goes into this in a bit more detail about what this solicitation is about. You can see that there's more information here now. So if you scroll, you can read that. You can read about the eligibility, the dissemination of project results, the software development, the fact that proposals are required to use the C3.ai suite and Microsoft Azure. And it will have information about the review criteria. It has information about proposal preparation and instructions. And please note this, title page, just 1 page, project description, only 5 pages. 1 additional page for how you will use C3.ai. Your bibliography can be up to 3 pages. Key personnel, that's where you put brief biosketches of everyone who's working on your team. The budget and budget justification together are 2 pages. This is not the kind of formal budget and budget justification that you would be putting into an NSF or an NIH proposal. And then if you want to include the DevOps people in your project, you have an extra page, okay? It's not a long proposal. Your title page should have this information, the full title, the PI name, title, affiliation, email address, and phone number. Same information for your co-investigators, the name of your lead institution, authorized organizational representative, and your grant administrator, and then your proposal abstract, 250 words max. Your project description should have sections with these titles: project relevance to energy and climate security, project methodology, expected accomplishments, criteria, your own criteria for success, the novelty and the likelihood of success that you assess, and your prior accomplishments that are related to your proposed research, and the computational challenges and the needed resources, okay? I hope that that helps you see the level of detail. It's not a lot of detail, and it should be feasible. Let's see, there may be some more questions. Okay, Satya is asking, can we leverage C3.ai suite resources for commercial use? I have no idea, and I'm gonna let Shrikant answer that one.
Sorry, I don't see that question on.
It's at the very end. It's the last question. Oh, that's a private question.
Oh, okay.
Sent to me alone. Okay, but can we leverage the C3.ai suite resources for commercial use?
Everything that is all research results obtained from a project that's funded by our institute must be in the public domain. I don't know the answer beyond that. I mean, if you, I guess if everything is in the public domain and you still want to use it, I suppose there's nothing that prevents you from doing that, but you cannot patent something and keep it private.
Okay, let's see if there's any other questions. I don't see any more questions, so let's see.
Maybe I would like to emphasize one thing. I think Tandy mentioned that the C3AI, the use of C3AI suite is required. So there are 2 ways to address this, and I think it was in the slides, but I just want to emphasize this. One is within the main 6 pages of the proposal, you have to write how you're going to use the C3AI suite. But then there is a 7th page where you can say how you're going to, if you want to, in consultation with the DevOps staff, you could write another page which says, how you can further leverage the DevOps resources, meaning the staff that we have. If it's something that they agree to, then you can put that down as part of your project. And I think both of those are, the first thing is required, and the second thing certainly will enhance your project. If you can say that, we'll use a C3.ai suite in this particular manner. And I think the rationale behind it is that the Institute is somewhat unique. In addition to just providing funding and having these other events like workshops and so on, we do provide significant computing facilities. And the more you can show that you can leverage and use them, clearly that's better from the perspective. Otherwise, you could go get the funding from somewhere else too. So we provide some unique resources, and if you can show that you can use them, certainly your proposal will benefit from that. The C3.ai Azure part of it is required, but additionally, the NCSA Berkeley Labs part is not required. But if you have ways to use the computing resources from NCSA and the Berkeley Labs, I think that would be +2.
Okay. No more questions. Okay, I'm going to encourage you to reach out to the C3.ai DevOps team. They're really, really useful. And also to attend the other sessions that are going to give you more information about this solicitation, this specific one. And read the documentation about the solicitation specifically on the webpage. Okay, the C3.ai DTI webpage has much more detailed information about what's being looked for. Okay. And if there are no other questions, because there's nothing else in the chat, last call. Questions? No questions? In that case, we will simply thank you very much. Oh, wait a minute, there is a question. Good. Go for it, Hamish, just write your question. We're waiting for the question to get written. So anyone else has a question, you could also throw it into the chat. Is there a way to quickly get started with the C3.ai suite without a paid account, for example, a web interface? This is a great question. And this is where DevOps people could answer, or Jay, you could answer. Who wants to answer this one?
I can certainly take a crack at that one. So, so I don't think that there's any way before a funded proposal gets awarded to get access to the C3.ai suite. So, so we've got a lot of training materials that we're going to be making available here very soon to everybody. The webinars, of course, for the technical webinars that are coming up, will give you a look into what's available. But I don't think that there's any mechanism where we can get you access to things in advance to do a proof of concept.
But this is the kind of thing where you're going to want to get some ideas about what you want to do, which is why I'm very strongly encouraging you to go to the office hours or go to the sessions. Okay, that way you'll find out. And also, Shrikant had explained that there are ways to use C3.ai suite that are not as difficult as others. Okay, Talal says, when will these training sessions be available? Jay, did you want to answer that one?
Well, so you had one slide that shows when the upcoming webinars are and when the office hours are. So you can just refer to that slide deck. It's also on the call for proposals page in the C3DTI .ai website. So both of those have got links to all of that and dates and times for the upcoming webinars.
Okay, and again, all of this is actually on the PDF that I have linked. And also, almost all that information is also on the C3.ai DTI webpage, okay? Okay, and remember proposals, you can send email to proposals at C3DTI.ai for more information, okay? And with this, I think that there's no more questions. And we will simply thank you very much for joining and look forward to seeing you at the next meetings of these or responding to your emails. Thank you very much.